We're gonna come up with a topic. It's gonna be muy interesante. Yay. Alright. And interesante means interesting. It's just a long way to say it. I'm sure there's a shorter way in Spanish, but because there are a lot of ways to say things in Spanish. There are a lot of ways to say things in every language, kind of, that I've seen so far, I guess. I think people use English in other countries because it's kind of an easy language to get the use of pronouns, I guess. I think, and they use it for trade as well in countries that don't speak it, because people don't speak it sometimes. And you know, stuff like that. I'm gonna put my helmet on, because safety first. And it's also the reason why people actually understand English in the first place too, is because of trading and traders and stuff like that. Who spoke a bunch of different languages that would speak English in non-English speaking places. It's originally how it came about, of like the reason why it's so popular, or the reasons why things are so popular. And also too, people want to move here. It's the reason why a lot of people from other countries are actually interested in our culture and the way that we do certain things. I think that it's just like the way that people have like gotten to be afraid, or the way that people are like the way that people who are not from here, but I mean they're not from here. And even, I don't really know like what got the whole instance of, hey, I'm from here, or I'm from this place. It's like, you're not from any place. You're from your mom's vagina, basically. And your mom decided to have you there. Sometimes because of either lack or a lack of resources, or abundance of resources, depending upon whether your mom decided to have you in a certain area of certain places. And I'm not going to go into a whole bunch of different things about it, because I'm not going to assume anything either. There are a lot of shit. There are a lot of reasons why people themselves why they're going to move to a certain country, or why they're going to go to a certain place. There are a lot of different reasons why people decide to move and decide to go. There are also a lot of different reasons why people themselves decide that they're going to revolt and stay in a different country too. Awesome. I didn't know that was there. I thought that wasn't a railing. And that's also the reasons why sometimes people themselves are who are like the most accepting of immigrants and people and nationalities and stuff like that. They are the ones that don't assumatorily know exactly where someone is actually from, or the political revoltees or political parties that they were a part of while they were in that country. I'm just saying that people's lives don't just start in a certain place. How's it going, viewer? If you would like to comment or anything like that, you can. People's lives don't just start in America, and I know that for a fact. And I think that that's the whole marketing ploy that was in the 70s and 60s or the 50s, is that your happiness didn't assumatorily begin until you started to be marketed in America. Basically, it's the place of dreams or something like that. I mean, granted, any established economy can be a place where people assumatorily want their dreams to be fulfilled. And some places there are people who decide that they're going to be in a certain area, and they'll try to establish a market or establish a what's the word, a regulatory monetary gaining system, basically, for themselves or for a group of people or for anyone, or maybe to establish something so that people themselves can basically have their own trailblazing. But either way, I'm getting into semantics, I guess, but either way, I think that it has a lot to do with the way that women themselves and people themselves learn languages. I think that when you learn a certain language, God damn it, when you learn a certain language, when you learn a certain language, you try to I think also too, and dang it, I lost my viewer. I think also too, the reasoning behind certain realizations of thought can be behind the reason why you'll start to learn a different language. Like, people themselves thought that you see a lot more of the people learning Hindu and Indian and Southeast Asian languages, because of the fact that there's people themselves who are who decidedly are in the media more often than not. You also understand that there are more people learning different Afrikaans languages as well, because of the fact that there were a lot of misconceptions about what the Afrikaans language was, and but also too, a lot of people saw who were doctors in other countries decided to watch in on different things that they would do, and a lot of it had to do with alchemy. Alchemy is the mixing together of dry goods, and people don't know what alchemy really is. It's like, people are like, ooh, alchemy, and like, oh, it's like, it's the mixing together of dry goods, or dry or fermented goods, to create elixirs or potions in or even just like a drink itself, an elixir or a or anything, to be able to to alleviate a certain symptom. They thought that they would overdose people, and that's the reason why they would have those certain visions or misinterpretations of what they would actually be experiencing. But also too, you have to think about and because that's the reason why people were actually considered savages in the olden days, I think. And that's, I've researched this a little bit, but not a whole bunch. But that's usually the reasons why people would consider. I don't have any bullets. God damn it.
Something don't feel too good.
All right. All right, here we go. And
I don't give a fuck, asshole.
but yeah, that's the reason why. And over a certain period of time, you start to realize that that also the reasons why they were overdosing is because it was so hot, and the fact is they had to go lots and lots of hours without water.
Citizens report assault with a deadly weapon on East Joshua Road.
And also too, I think that's within itself kind of, it's like people think themselves to be able to evolve to a certain temperature or a certain number of things, but then within a certain number of generations, a person themselves comes from a different part of where they are or who they are, and when it's within itself, I think people themselves within that kind of experience, I think that's where people get usually what they believe racism to be today, I guess. And that's basically the reasons why science itself would predict or portray people's heads to be smaller, or when in actuality there were certain tribes of people who were indigenous to certain areas that had evolved in a separate form or fashion than than other people, like pygmies.
Located in pursuit.
And there were people themselves that denied these claims or said that it didn't exist, and within those stories themselves, they said that there were demons and a whole bunch of different spells and things like that. Like that to me, it's in itself. I think that in order for a life of conjuring or any sort of summoning to be able to exist, there would have to be a certain part of a technological advancement to be known, then forgotten, and then that's what sorcery and all the other different shit would be. But for that to happen, there would have to be an entire civilization of completely advanced completely advanced people. And oh man, there's just so many instances of being able to elaborate on. There's so many people that will be able to elaborate on the instances of what I think a certain civilization would be, and I think that through a certain I guess through a certain number of people, people would start to realize the reasons why it's like how I don't believe that any certain person has a certain number of, I'd say, diseases or something like that, or it's like, oh man, I don't get it sometimes when people actually say that they're I just don't get it. I just don't get a lot of stuff. But I assumatorily educate myself. Assumatorily, I educate myself on the know, to be on the nose of something, to be able to realize exactly where it exists and how it exists in a certain aspect of something. I think the existence of a certain kind of person,
Give me that thing right now. Come on.
the existence of a certain kind of indigenous people,
Bitch ass bullshit.
decidedly make a conscious effort to be able to advance themselves in some way, shape, or fashion.
Man, sorry about that.
Would it basically wind up with you having an available number of resources to be able to establish a certain I think the way that a lot of different countries themselves establish themselves by fighting or through a certain number of things, they just realized that by the time their society was advanced enough to do something, was the time that they thought themselves would be dead because of modern medicine, or the modern medicine that they knew at that point. And that's where a lot of like barbarianistic behavior, I guess, came from. Whether it be ninja, samurai, Viking, a whole bunch of different other connotations of being a specific person and coming from a specific indigenous people. But also too, I think within that concept, people themselves didn't realize or understand that through their own selfish desire or want to have fame and glory, they themselves were causing the injustices sometimes. It's like you smoke cigarettes, or I'm just getting a freaking motorcycle, guys. Yeah.
Suspect on the interstate.
Roger.
When people say time's up, you sectionalize an entire part of someone's culture, of what they love, of how they love it, the way they want to be around it, or the way they want to be it. And then after a certain number of or kinds of and as a group, I guess you have to put them all in a group, all into a group, and say that this number of people were sectionalizing and making sure that jobs themselves wouldn't reach the entire U.S. But within those same movies or TV shows or anything like that, you'd have one person who's been acting in the game for 25 years. No, decidedly so, they're making sure that no one else themselves can get that role. Making sure and staving off the fact that and you can go along and say that it's everyone's fault, or that it's no one's fault, or any kind of fault, is the fact that these are the reasons why I think they're saying time's up, or the hidden reasons why they're saying time's up, is the fact that there are people themselves who are very talented actors, and very talented at what they do, but for the simple fact that some of them don't agree with what other people actually, because there are actors that don't agree with anything that anyone actually says about stuff like that. Stuff like anything, any political thing they'd probably have a problem with. But they act, and their look or their demeanor themselves insinuates, or not even insinuates, but people hope for them to think like them, to be able to understand or even get where they're coming from. And through that, people have thought that there's a certain sort of unity that through our own economy and our own injustice or justice, people have made concerning to me concerning injustifications. Like, it has nothing to do with one political party. It has to do with everyone themselves surviving. And that's the point too, is if you want everyone to survive, then everyone themselves has to be able to get a job. And not just one specific job that everyone can do or anything like that, because then you'll wind up with a bunch of people who have carpal tunnel. And these are the reasons why a lot of people are pissed off about America and the way that but also too, in the same sense, do you expect America to not only, in certain ways, people have expected other countries to be able to see them through a certain crisis, even though they themselves, being existing on this planet and having a responsibility to their own lives and the people who they decided to make on this planet. Do you think that they themselves would be able to understand that there is no room? That there would be widespread pollution? Or do you give responsibility to the people who are outsourced or outed, or to give not only factories that build phones or anything like that, to give jobs to people who would literally have nothing otherwise. But not only that, would you give those people a baser economy, even though they themselves are running through pollution because of what they have done for other countries? Not only for us, but for other countries as well. Because yes, a lot of them, the outsourcing has been done by a lot of other countries just as much as the Americas. And within that, you'll start to realize that a lot of people have a little bit what they would call sameness, or not just sameness, but God damn it. Not just sameness, but almost uniformness. Like there's someone decidedly, or someone that decidedly makes these decisions, like for the planet, or the planet itself, because of its weather patterns or anything like that, or the fact that it's through natural disaster or anything like that, that there is a select group of people that themselves control economies, and through their own decision making control masses that create and distribute. That I think is the more reasons why I think that there's more times up, or there should be times up for those as well, because they're gonna start to believe their own hype, I guess. People themselves always start to believe their own hype. No matter who they are, no matter what they are, no matter what they do, they like to indulge in what they are, and how they are, and how they do things. No matter where they're going in life, no matter who they're being as far as a person goes, no matter what they're associating as far as different thoughts that go together, they're still indulging in who they are as a person. Ow. And as you go through the ranks and start to realize and start to believe the hype about what something's happening, people start to understand that there were things put into place a long time ago that invested and insinuated things towards a mass. Okay, that mass themselves decided to move. When that mass decided to move, the older people started to get things. They started to move things. They started to because they had a reference to be able to push things on. They had a reference to be able to push and pull things and say, oh, this is the way that things are going to be, because these are the people that saved us from an injustice or a dumbness or a stupid thing that happened or was about to happen, and we just barely missed it. Or through that, basically, that's the reason why I think a lot of times I don't look in Inquirer or anything like that, but I read the cover and I start to see a form-fitted opinion about the people who write magazines themselves. A magazine itself is meant to catch your eye, to be able to culturally influence you. To be able to culturally influence you, to be able to see what is acceptable or assumatorily right. Like, basically, it's your reflex that when you believe or see that thing, you start to realize that that thing itself is, wow, that's the norm now. That's the thing that I'm going to believe, and through any sort of of just or unjust manipulation, people themselves start to believe those cubby holes, believe those absolute cubby holes are where they're supposed to be, or the fact that they're supposed to revolt when something doesn't go their way, or instead of learning how to do paperwork and learning the fact that there are certain instances where the connotation of protest means revulsion or complete and utter what's the word? Complete and utter absolution. And I say, realize that where your government stands, or wherever your lives stand, wherever your life itself stands, is where someone or something influenced it to make you believe or think that you had a norm to be able to want, to be able to see, to be able to actually enjoy something that they thought you'd enjoy. It's the reason for parents and all those other different things like that. Not every single aspect of what I'm saying is supposed to be assumed as wrong or unjust or anything like that. But through injustices, sometimes we start to see a very taxation of opinion. And through that taxation of opinion, we start to realize that, oh, it's this one guy that's doing stupid shit, but also to realize that there are people around that one person. There are people pushing for that one person to be seen because they don't want other things to be seen.
Man, that's dumb luck right there.
Realize that for every instance of one person abusing a child, there is one dude who's a doctor that's literally abusing 1,000 every single day. Realize for every one person that gets inducted into some hate or racial slur group or idiom, there are 1,000 people fighting for a cause that literally died out for some people thousands of years ago. Realize that if it was time's up for just one person, or time's up for just one group of people, then it's time's up for the thousands or millions of people that constantly think that there is a norm or a norm in oh damn it, I just dive bombed into a railroad track. Realize it's time's up for those people as well, and it's time for you to stop giving yourself that money to those people. And if you actually think that there's some sort of revolution happening, that some sort of revolt should happen, then don't go home and keep on creating the same simulation. I play this game because I like it, because it's cool and it's fun to me, because it checks out the social norm of being, and it also creates a visualization for me. A visualization about other things that I can go outside, because I'm an introvert. I think that sometimes I like explosions and I like to do stupid shit, like press buttons and do dumb stuff, like celebrate and friggin' fart off in the air, like celebration, like all that other different stupid stuff. I like to do absurd things, things that you wouldn't normally see. This in this simulation is that's a better one. Alright. I explain my own behavior and the fact that people don't normally explain the behavior that they think they want. I think that like also too, this motorcycle itself that I like to drive on this certain thing is ascertainable to be able to go get one if I would save up enough money. To be able to get the confidence to be able to do it, to do something, is the confidence that if I really, really wanted to drive it, then I'd practice first. The fact that if I really wanted to go out and do something, or actually go out and say something, or go out and push my opinion, the more I push my opinion, the more I'd see people actually being affected by my opinion. But also too, once I affect someone with my opinion, once I realize that that fact is affecting someone, do I push more? Or do I realize that all opinions themselves have merit? Or at least all positive opinions have merit. Realize that if you're going to fight a war that is completely unwinnable, you'll have to fight a war of opinion. Because you'll be able to realize and to be able to make sure, or you'll have to realize that your enemy is not the enemy of your enemy is not your friend. Your enemy can become your friend if you were to relate to that person enough. Not to just relate to them on a scale of, oh, this is what people do, this is what other people do, but realize that on a thought-provoking level, on a metaphorical level, to be able to create idiom to where people who wouldn't normally talk would talk. And that in itself, not only disturbing, not only breathtaking or fear mongering or anything like that. That in itself is art. That in itself is spoken word, or that spoken word is complete and utter art. And I think that that's the reason why. Hold on.
Hey, Turnburgers, let's go!
That I believe and I think that most people can change if they just realize that there are certain positivity and positive thinking methods to where they can, or I think that through realization of thought and realization of drive or vigor or any sort of dexterity, realize that through that motion you're creating something, you're affecting something, and through that effect you're affecting something. And if that thing doesn't want you to affect it, then it will defend itself. It will defend itself if it doesn't like you. Now take that that operation into what nature is. The fact that there are so many poisonous animals or poisonous reptiles and things that just by their nature you would believe are evil. But understandably so, the reasons why they're evil is because maybe humans themselves or a human individualistically got a hold of that one thing and started torturing it, or started doing something to it that it didn't want. People have to know and understand the fact that nature itself will spit us the fuck out if we don't start to get along and start acting like normal people, like actual people who deserve to be able to live on this planet. And that's literally what death is in some cases. That it will literally force us out of our own bodies and then watch and make us watch as it destroys us like we did or tried to do it. And that's not an opinion, that's an absolute fact. It's time's up on the shittiest thinking or the witch hunts or the dumb shit that people think that they can push or provide or make sure that they can actually do something to be able, or make sure that they can actually do something and still sectionalize the entire United States of America. Or an entire economy that deserves itself, that through itself deserves to be a something. And it's like, oh, but you'll get all those other types of people that, yeah, all those other types of people. And if you don't like it, then fucking move out. It's time's up for that as well. And the more you don't fucking like it, the more you can go climb a tree and wait for the end of the world. Because it'll probably happen at the end of that tree, when it gets cut down and you fall to the ground. Have a good day, and be better for yourself. Be better for everyone. Because I can't do a lot of stuff sometimes. Thank you for listening, if you ever do. And thank you for that one person who decided that they were going to watch. But, that's what I believe, and that's what I think in my head every single day when I see someone or see something. And maybe that in itself got manipulated. But through that manipulation, I decided that what I wanted, through that sort of thing that affected me, I decided exactly what I would accept. And through that exception, I started to realize that I could change my views to whatever I wanted to, and be truly American, because Americans believe in different shit, but we still are under the same roof. That's the reason why. Thank you for listening, if you ever do, and remember, you're your own one-man metaphorical bomb squad, or one human metaphorical bomb squad. I'm not gonna go into what people would call gender-neutral stereotype or gender-neutral things, because that in itself, if they want to make up a word, then they can make one up and put it in the goddamn English language, or the goddamn American language, because we don't say it like English people do. So, not to say that it's not bad, but not to say that it's not good, because it's pretty attractive sometimes. Have a wonderful day, and hold on one second. Doop doop doo doop 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 all right, there we go. We're gonna run away enough to where we can get, and then actually I'm gonna get into the shadow of it. There we go. Yeah, that's what that is. Have a good day. I gotta go to the store.